the studio itself is a magical dream world that looks like an old-timey detective's office from somewhere between the 1930s and the 1950s.
That was Amanda Guest, the founder of BFF-FM. I'm Jeff, and this is Storied San Francisco. Welcome to episode 17, part 1. In this podcast, as a lead up to part 2, Amanda will talk about several trips she took to San Francisco from her home state of Massachusetts. Here's Amanda.
But yeah, and then when I moved to San Francisco in 2012, like the first thing on my mind was like, how am I going to do radio?
Which is a nice segue.
Yeah.
Into your story.
Yeah, my story.
Not that there's any rush if you would have.
So no, it's a perfect segue. I always kind of joke with people that San Francisco is kind of like the second love of my life, because I feel like I had this like whirlwind romance with San Francisco, and San Francisco was a place where even when I was a kid, when I thought about like places that really cool people live and like adults do really cool stuff, it was either New York City or San Francisco. And I came to San Francisco when I was 12 for the first time on a family trip. It was like this, my family doesn't usually travel too far, so this was like a big deal.
Where are you from originally?
I'm from Salem, Massachusetts.
Okay.
But we did this 3-week trip. We started in San Francisco, we ended in Disneyland, and we just saw the whole state.
Awesome.
And it's kind of funny because, San Francisco wasn't the most kid-friendly thing we did on that trip, you know?
You were 12?
12. But my dad was in the National Guard when he was younger, and he had an Army buddy that he had met at basic training in Oklahoma. And he was this Japanese guy named George Sakamoto, and he lived in San Francisco. Well, actually, specifically, he lived in Oakland. But he was like, if you ever come to San Francisco, like, I want to show you around. So yeah, my parents planned this 3-week trip. We come out. And George takes us to a super authentic Chinese restaurant in Chinatown. We have, it's like I'm seeing types of food that I've never seen in my little life. We walk around Chinatown at night, and at the time to me, it felt like we were, probably because of the time difference, it felt like we were like out at like 3 a.m, but it was probably only like 7.
Yeah, bustling. I mean, to this day, that's one of the more bustling neighborhoods.
Yeah,
if not the most.
And it was just,
so exciting.
Just seeing, all these sights and smells and things I'd never seen before. And then he took us for a drive around the city, and he specifically wanted to take us down Lombard Street because, tourists, that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
But he had this giant 1970s gold Cadillac.
Oh my God.
And I just remember he did not take it slowly down Lombard. Like he was like the tires were screaming.
And screaming.
Yeah, we were like just flying down this hill, and it was like being on a roller coaster, except it was a street. And, and it was just this one night that we had with this like old friend of my dad's that just showed this like how magical this city could be. And then, I think, like I said, throughout my life, I kind of always held San Francisco in this regard where, this was like a really magical city where, cool stuff happens and where cool people are. And then fast forward to the second time I came to San Francisco was in 2007. I started working for a media technology publisher, and I had to start flying out to San Francisco once a year for the Game Developers Conference. And so, it was kind of interesting going back as an adult and, kind of getting to relive some of those experiences.
Trying to see if the images match up, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because you idolize or you kind of idealize those memories.
Exactly, yeah. And
Did it? Or did they mesh at all?
I mean, the first time was a little, it wasn't quite the same because I, was like just staying at like the Marriott downtown and like was kind of like there for work.
It wasn't painted to look like a Victorian.
No. But I still like just felt this like great energy in the city, and just in general, I always loved working the Game Developers Conference because I love video games, and that's talking about how there's so many different ways to tell a story. People are telling some incredible stories through game design.
Yes, they are.
And so that was something that, I was really pumped for that, at least. But then, so what ended up happening is the next year when I went to GDC, this friend of mine from Colorado told me about a website called Twitter. And this
is 2008.
2008.
Now. Okay.
And he was like, there's this website called Twitter. It's like a social media thing. I don't know. I think you'd really like it. Because I did blogging for years. I had a personal blog, and then I had a blog about the city that I lived in. And so he was like, yeah, it's like blogging, but it's just like little. Like
and they used to call it microblogging.
Yeah, exactly.
Barf. Anyway. But yeah, no, that was like same thing for me. The people who sold it to me in 2008 said the same thing. Yeah,
they're like, yeah, just you can say whatever you want, but just a little bit at a time. And so he convinced me to join the site. And then how in the very early days, like when you sign up, it's like follow these like 10 people that they used to suggest people for to follow.
Yes.
And like one of them was Burrito Justice.
Sure.
And, it was like all just like
pioneer
people that you now like just see in the neighborhood at the time, at the time they were like the influencers because it was only people in your neighborhood that were on Twitter. And because Twitter was in San Francisco, it was all these like cool San Francisco people. So I followed like Burrito Justice, and I followed Mike Montero from Mule Design, and
who's still off. By the way. He's still blacked out. He took himself off.
He took himself off Twitter recently, which my friend that I met through Mike Montero on Twitter was like, I don't know, like, what do you think? Should we do it too? And I'm like, at this point,
of course we should, but can we?
Yeah,
really?
No, I can't.
No.
It's way too addictive. But anyway, so my friend Brian that told me to join Twitter, like, loved Mike Montero, and he was just like, you got to follow this guy. He's the best, and he has so many fascinating things to say. So I start following him, and then like a week later, he like made some joke. I don't even remember. It was like something about getting lunch, and then I made a joke. Like I just joked back at him, like, hey, I'll see you on the corner in 15 minutes. And then he retweeted it, and it was back when you had to like manually retweet.
Oh yeah.
So it was like, it wasn't just a click. It was like
you had to write the letters RT.
Yeah, it was effort, you guys. And my friend Brian was so jealous because he was like, I've been tweeting at this guy for months, and you just like, you're on here 1 week and you make some dumb joke and he's like all over it.
Yeah, but Brian clearly didn't mention food or didn't do
it
anything with
was
food. Like, it's just food. That's the
It's like you got to make a dorky lunch joke.
Yeah.
But anyway, because he retweeted me, then Alan Huff from Mission saw the retweet, looked at some of my other tweets, liked them, and started following me. And then it just turned out that a couple months later, I was in San Francisco at GDC. And so I was, tweeting a lot about being in San Francisco. And then shortly, like, I think it was like a couple days after I went home, Alan like slid into my DMs, which at the time wasn't really like, it wasn't as fraught as it is now.
Right.
But yeah, he DM'd me and he was like, we should get a beer. And I was just like, I don't live here.
Right.
It's like, I don't live in San Francisco.
This is before bios?
Yeah, I think I just like, I put like where I was from, but like it didn't say like Massachusetts. It was just
like I feel like now, does it geolocate you or something?
It does.
Crap, like it spies on, uses the NSA. Anyway, yeah,
but
that didn't used to be a thing. You had to say it.
Yeah, and I had where I was, but it didn't say Massachusetts. It was just like the town I lived in, which sounds pretty generic. So I don't know where he thought I was, but he thought I was in San Francisco, and I had to be like, no. And it's funny because I was always complaining about the crappy Walgreens I went to, and everyone was always assuming it was 16th and Mission Walgreens. But I was like, no, we have crappy Walgreens in other parts of the country too.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But yeah, so then we started like talking on Twitter, and then I actually started reading Mission all the time, even though I didn't live here. And
had you been to the Mission on any of these
hadn't
trips?
Been to the Mission.
Okay.
Had only really been like in the downtown area. So then I told Alan, next time I come out on a trip, I want you to show me the Mission. Like at this point, it had been almost a year. And, I had been reading the blog and thought, the Mission just sounds like such a cool neighborhood, like so cool this guy's blogging about it. And, I was just like, I want you to show me the Mission, show me what it's all about. And so I flew in for the next GDC. And
so now this is 2009.
2009.
Okay.
I think, yeah, I think it's 2009. And then... so we met up, and it was kind of funny because it was like, first we get on Muni. we get on Muni.
Right.
So I got on the J and went up to Dolores Park.
Was that your first Muni ride?
That was my first Muni ride. Yeah.
J Church, not a bad one.
Yeah. And that's like, it's actually funny. I take the J a lot now because I live in the Castro and I have friends in Noe Valley. So it's a good one to kind of just get yourself over the hill. And I just love coming home that way because there's that moment where you come out of that kind of tunnely zone and you see the beautiful, panorama of downtown.
Yeah.
It's just like, this is public transportation.
Yep.
This cost me $2.50.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say the part where you come out of the tunnel behind Safeway and there's like all those beautiful murals.
Oh, yeah.
And at least there used to be like all the heroin addicts.
Yeah.
This is where home.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of part of the joy of living in San Francisco.
It's significant.
Yeah.
And a meaningful part of it.
Yeah. For every time you like have your breath taken away by the fog spilling over the base of Sutro Tower, you get your breath taken away by a literal pile of human feces.
Literally breath taken away.
Yes.
Like, don't breathe.
Right.
Just keep walking.
But yeah, so he showed me the Mission and we walked around and then, I had to like start actually doing work.
Right.
And, the other funny thing was about the first time I met Alan was I had been working a lot of overtime at my job to kind of gear up for this trip. And so my boss was like, you know what? Take yourself out to a really fancy dinner, expense it, bring a friend, say they're an author, and I'll write it off for you.
This was for when you're going to be here.
Yeah.
In San Francisco. Okay.
Right. So anyway,
do you know how actually expensive is in San Francisco?
Well, and my boss was like, go to a really nice sushi restaurant. So I told Alan, I was like, yeah, my boss says I have to go out to this, I really need to treat myself. And he took me to Beretta.
Okay.
So that was like my first meal in the Mission was Beretta, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
And I mean,
and
like
fun. It's
casual.
Drinks are cool and yeah.
Yeah. And the town that I lived in, we didn't quite have the same foodie scene, so It was pretty great. But yeah, and then so then I the next day I like went back to working and in the booth at the Game Developers Conference, and I'd have to wine and dine authors and do meetings and talk about book pitches and all this sort of stuff. And then the second to last night that I was in San Francisco, I was gonna just go to bed, and then Alan messaged me on Twitter and was like, hey, I'm going to a friend's birthday party. Do you want to go to my friend's birthday party? And I was just like, I guess, sure. Yeah, we'll hang out.
BFF-FM is presenting a show at Great American Music Hall on February 24th, featuring Girlpool, Field Medic, Rose Droll, and Special Explosion as part of Noise Pop Fest 2018. For more information, go to BFF's Facebook page and click on events. There are all kinds of ways to hear and keep up with Storied San Francisco. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find all the episodes on our website, which is storiedsf.com, and also Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and iTunes. Over on iTunes, you can rate and review podcasts, so if you do that for us, we'd really appreciate it. Our email is storiedsf@gmail.com. Music for the podcast is by Otis McDonald, a.k.a. Joe Begale. Photos of Amanda are by Michelle Kilfeather. Thanks for listening, Check back Thursday when we'll hear about the night that made Amanda fall in love with San Francisco.